Can you believe I had a customer return this beautiful stack of white ash to me? Stick around, I'll explain. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, you know, I don't usually deal in clickbait, but I couldn't help myself. I had to tease this video a little bit. Yes, the customer returned this lumber to me. No, I'm not Costco. I don't accept returns on anything I sell. I shouldn't say it that way. I am human. If I make mistakes, you know, I make things right. But typically in the lumber business, returns are not something you deal with a whole lot. So what do we got going on here with this stuff? Well, this is a return in a good way. So a few years ago, I had a customer with some woodland. He wanted to harvest the ash trees that were dying on his property. And I have a whole video on the emerald ash borer, why it's killing the ash, and the ash around here in this area is pretty much going extinct. I'll put a link at the end of this video if you're curious about that. It explains the whole thing. It really is a shame, but that's a tale for another day. So watch that video and bring you up to speed on the emerald ash borer. So that's what this lumber was. It was in the process of being killed by the emerald ash borer, and he had the foresight to say, hey, I don't want that stuff to just rot in the woods. So he logged it out, he brought it to me, I sawed it, I dried it, and I sent it back to him. Now, he is a woodworker, he's retired, he has a full wood shop, and little by little, he's been using it for projects. And I stay in touch with him because he's a customer I know pretty well, and I've seen a lot of stuff he builds. But he had a lot of this. We sawed a couple thousand feet for him that he had in storage. And now it's a few years later, and his son is actually putting an addition on his house and needed flooring. So he approached me about using some of this ash wood that he had left on hand for flooring, and I said, absolutely, it makes beautiful flooring. So we talked about it a little bit. This stuff I had kiln dried for him, but he had it stored in a non-climate controlled garage. And he brought me a couple pieces and we moisture tested it, and it wasn't terrible. But I said, listen, if you're making it into flooring, bring it to me. Let's re-kiln dry it, get it down to the appropriate moisture. We'll re-sterilize it, make sure no powder post beetle has gotten into it, and we'll make flooring out of it. So that's what we're doing today. He brought it back to me. It just came out of the kiln. That's why we have it all re-stickered. But if you're looking at this stuff, you might notice, well, you may actually notice there's some red oak mixed in because we're also making a little bit of red oak flooring for him. But you may notice it's all different lengths and it's all planed already. Well, as I mentioned, he's a woodworker, has a full wood shop. So he decided he was going to do a bunch of the legwork for me. I gave him my specifications. He pre-planed the blanks, ripped them to width, and basically cut out any bad spots that he saw and didn't want in the flooring. So he cut out a lot of work for me. So this is going to be a nice, simple job for me. I'm basically just running it through the molder, tongue and grooving it, squaring it up and packaging it and sending it back to him. But you know, any chance I get to work with white ash anymore, because it's becoming more and more rare, I don't pass up. And this is some beautiful stuff. As you're gonna see, it's gonna make some beautiful flooring. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I figured, well, I gotta make a video on this just because I don't know how much more white ash flooring I'll get to do. So the one downside when he brought it here and we stacked it, it was a puzzle because it's cut into a bunch of short pieces and it's different widths. So we basically stickered it the best we can, but we've got, I think he said 4 different widths here, and they're all jumbled together. So the first step I got to do, I'm gonna break this stack down, take it off of stickers, and sort it by width. So when I take it up to the molder, I'm not dealing with a giant puzzle and wasting a bunch of time trying to sort through it. So that's step number 1. Well, I got the first batch, the widest stuff, up here in the shop. And usually I gotta wait until I'm done and it's plain that you can see what it looks like. But this, being that it's pretty plain, you can already kind of see. We're gonna clean it up a little nicer, but this is gonna be some beautiful flooring. So I'm starting with the widest. I got 4 sizes, and I always work from widest to narrowest. It's just the way I've always done it. Doesn't really matter, but the one advantage I found is if for some reason there's a goofy piece that doesn't make it, I can always knock it down to the next narrower size. When we're working from narrow to wide, it obviously doesn't work that way. I don't really think that's going to be the case here because he has these blanks all darn near perfect. So it's just the way I'm used to working. Honestly, I kind of feel like I'm cheating a little bit on this one. It's rare. It hardly ever happens that I just bring stuff in and run it right through the molder. No sizing, no pre-planing, nothing. It's just going straight through. So it's a pretty ice cream job. Got to set up my tongue and groove yet. These are a little bit different tongue and groove cutters than what I normally use for flooring. And I'll talk about that once I get it through the machine. But I just got to get my cutters in here and we'll be ready to plane some wood. So I got the molder all dialed in. I'm happy with where it's at. I ran a few pieces here, and now I'm going to give you a lesson on hardwood flooring. So I told you this stuff was a little bit different than my regular flooring. Well, let me show you what I'm talking about. So these are 2 flooring cutoffs I pulled out, white oak, and you can see how that tongue and groove fit together. It's really tight and flush. This is the way I sell 99% of my hardwood flooring. This is how unfinished hardwood flooring is sold. So it goes out the door like this. It fits flush. Typically you lay it, sand it, and then you put on your finish, whether it's stain or a clear coat, whatever you choose. But it's finished on site on the floor. Now, I'm sure some of you, or most of you, have seen pre-finished hardwood flooring. That's a little bit of a different animal. You can't have a joint like this with pre-finished flooring. The reason being, no matter how perfect the wood is machined and your floor is, when you go to put these together on your floor, you're always going to have what's called overwood, which is, these joints aren't going to be perfect just when you put them together. That's why you sand it and get everything nice and flat. So obviously when you are putting down pre-finished flooring, you can't sand it. If you sand pre-finished flooring, you're just going to sand your finish off. So the solution around that is we put a little micro bevel on. I'm not sure how well the camera is going to pick up the detail, but obviously you can see there's a little bit of a gap there. It's just, if you think of V-groove paneling, it's just a little tiny bevel on the edges, and this flooring is going to be pre-finished. It's what the customer decided. For what they're doing, it's going to be their best option. It's not something that's very common that I do, but I'm not doing the pre-finishing, they're going to do the pre-finishing. So I said, well, we can accommodate that when we tongue and groove it. So I'm using a little bit different tongue and groove cutter to put in this micro bevel, and they're going to micro bevel the ends, because that's a service I don't offer, because that is very labor intensive and it's honestly not something I wanted to get involved with. So they're okay with that. So they are going to do the ends, because obviously you think of flooring, your joints are staggered, your ends butt together, and if you have these lines running this way to define the board, but you butt these ends, well, that's a little bit of a strange look. So they're going to complete the look by micro beveling those ends. But if you've ever seen pre-finished flooring or flooring in general, and you saw this little micro bevel and you thought, what's up with that? That's why. So you can install pre-finished boards and you don't need to sand, because the bevel will hide that little bit of imperfection. If this board's higher than this board, it all just blends together. Whereas if they were touching each other really tight with a flush joint, you'd be able to see that. It'd be something you'd catch your feet on. It wouldn't be a very, very nice floor. So that's just a little lesson on hardwood flooring. Now, I for my own personal preference, I prefer the old-fashioned unfinished flooring, the finish on site. I think it does a better job. And some drawbacks to the pre-finished flooring. These are dust catches. So you can imagine all these little grooves on the floor. Yeah, that can eventually build up dust. It's a little bit tougher to clean than just a flush floor. And the other downside is when you go to refinish this at some point, which, you know, if you're in a house long enough, or, you know, eventually, it doesn't matter, the next owner, whatever, a hardwood floor is basically a lifetime floor, but occasionally you will have to refinish them. So you go to refinish this floor, now you got to sand it. When you sand it, you have to make sure you sand out these grooves completely, because otherwise you'll end up with grooves in a spot, no grooves, it'll look terrible. So that is the one downside when you go to refinish. You know, you have to take that into account. So I, for my own personal preference, like the traditional unfinished flooring, finish it on site, but I realize there's applications where the pre-finish just works out better. So I'll do whatever the customer wants. That's my little spiel. I'm gonna go back to running this stuff. It's nice. One thing I will say, if I can complain about a job, which I shouldn't complain about this one, but a lot of short lengths. I like running the longer lengths. It's just easier for me chasing, especially when I'm working by myself here, chasing both sides of the molder. But what are you gonna do? Can't have it all. You guys ever forget you're making a YouTube video? Yeah, I know it happens to all of us. I got busy on this order yesterday, was cruising along and had a customer in the afternoon, kind of got sidetracked. And well, then this strapping machine started giving me some fits. These things are awesome when they work. And let me tell you, if you've ever looked inside of one, it's like the spaceship in there. It's ridiculous. They are extremely complicated for what they do. And that took me a while to get that straightened out again. So I got this finished up here. First thing this morning, I cut the last few pieces and tallied everything up. We got 615 feet, and that includes about 50-some feet of oak. You can see that, that's a beautiful piece of red oak right there that they threw in with the mix, but this ash is really nice stuff. So that's pretty neat. That was a pretty simple run-of-the-mill project for me. Nothing really too extraordinary. I just wanted to show you some nice wood. If you like it, stick around, subscribe. In the next week or two, I'm gonna have a project that's totally different than this. It's really throwing me out of my comfort zone. I can make flooring with my eyes closed, but I have a customer that challenged me to do something here that, well, I'm gonna try to take on for him. So make sure you subscribe, like the video, do all that stuff, and I'll catch you on the next one.